It's super important to support artists and arts organizations always, but particularly crucial in this time of slashed budgets and alarming censorship. So thank you to the Seattle Office of Arts and Culture. Thank you to Jim and Carol and the team here at Kucera. I'm thrilled to be able to have this opportunity. Thank you to all of you for showing up today. As I'm sure you're well aware, it's a National Day of Protest. So after you get your fill of me talking, I hope that you will make your way to Seattle Center, join me there, and get your voices heard. I have a confession to make. It appears that I have unwittingly committed an unforgivable offense. I have allowed myself to get old. This is true. I turn 60 next month, and I'm no longer able to describe myself as middle-aged or even upper middle-aged. I'm officially old. I became aware that I was guilty of this offense of aging while female because I've been bombarded with messages that tell me that it is absolutely imperative that I conceal all evidence of my advancing years. And I will admit that I have succumbed to the pressure. I have purchased my fair share of lotions and potions that promise to give me a youthful glow. I spent decades coloring my hair to cover the gray. Would I like to look like I did when I was 25? Absolutely, right? Would I like to be 25 again? Absolutely not. So this exhibit is a love letter to myself. It is a way for me to push back against this insidious propaganda that tells me that I have surpassed my best body date, and to help me be kinder to myself and be more accepting of the shifting topography of my body. Those of you who are familiar with my work know that I work with found objects that are central to my practice. So once I decided I wanted to make work about aging as a female in our youth-obsessed culture, I had to start looking for the proper materials. I was thinking particularly about skin, aging skin, wrinkles, sunspots, sagging, slackening, the effects of gravity, loss of elasticity, breast shifting from chest to waistline, and that brought me to bra straps. So I bought a bunch of bra straps and started experimenting with them in my studio. And the first pieces I made were smaller sculptures. They're bra straps with lead weights stretched across steel frames. But I decided I wanted to make a larger wall hanging that had a reference to the proportions of my body. So I got a piece of conduit and I stretched it, hung it up in my studio, and I started a months-long process of weaving hundreds of bra straps and riveting them and adding lead weights and strips of lead as I went. So when this piece is stretched out fully on the conduit, it is essentially my arm span. And before the center was released and allowed to drape, it was about my height. So it's my proportions of my body. It ended up being about 840 bra straps and over 10,000 rivets, and took me about 3 months to make. The title of this piece is Diamante, Fall from Grace. Diamante is a sequined or otherwise embellished fabric, and this is how I've decided to refer to my own body, my own skin. It's just a beautifully embellished fabric. So in the midst of my obsession with bra straps, an artist friend gifted me an old quilt. I had no immediate plans of what I would do with that quilt, which is often the case with my accumulation of collected items, but I loved the fact that it was faded and sun-damaged, much like myself. And so I tucked it away and had it in the back of my brain as I was working with the bra straps. Beyond being a collector of objects, I'm also a collector of language. So I keep running lists of words and phrases that have meaning to me, and I had this list of derogatory words that are applied to older women. And I was thinking about this phenomenon with older women that we describe how as we age, we become invisible to society. This can be a really distressing thing, but it can also be a superpower, because who hasn't wanted to have a cloak of invisibility? So I started started thinking about trying to camouflage text within the quilt. And I started with this piece over here. This is called Cloak of Invisibility Chrome. And I painstakingly matched glass seed beads to the patterns of the fabrics within the quilt. Once I had proof of concept that I could actually make this work, that I could disguise the text within the piece, I started looking for more quilts. And I discovered that there is this market of what are called cutter quilts. They're old quilts that are either torn, have holes, they're faded, they're sun damaged like the one I had, and people purchase them and repurpose them. They make them into all kinds of things, pillow shams, stuffed animals, clothing, and it was perfect for my purposes because I wanted textiles that showed age. But I didn't like the idea of taking a perfectly serviceable quilt and chopping it up. So I was able to purchase more quilts, and then from that I went on and did Hag, and behind over here is Witch. Beading, if anyone has done beading, is a very time-consuming, labor-intensive process. If you've ever seen people talk about couture gowns and they say, oh, it took 10,000 hours to bead, I understand. So in the midst of sitting and beading, I have a lot of time to think, and I was thinking about more words that describe older women, and old bags popped in my head, which then led me to the punching bags. So they are literal old bags, and they are also metaphorical in terms of the way that women are denigrated and dismissed and disregarded as we age. So I started with this one. This is dismissed. So on this side, if you look carefully, I've camouflaged beading the text in there, so it does say dismissed, and on the back side there is a bullseye or a target, so the way that we are targeted as we age. The next was this one over here. This is disregarded. So disregarded on one side, and the other side is 2 X's. So for me, that's the double cross of being old and a woman. And can also relate to this sort of simplified, outdated idea that to be a woman, you have to have 2 X chromosomes. Let's see. Oh, so I couldn't give up on my bra strap obsession. So we have this one. This one is called, what is this one called, Jim?
I'm sorry, what did you say? What is it called?
So I'm just trying to remember.
Oh.
Discolored stigmata, that's right. Okay, so it's the bra straps becoming a skin of sorts. Then I've also stained it to represent all the lovely sun damage and age spots that happen, and then added some beaded growths because I'm sorry, every day it's like, what the heck is that? This one is another quilt, but it's the back side of the quilt. It's this very beautiful satin coverlet that I removed the back into it, and then I started pulling out, removing some other pieces of the fabric, revealing some of the colors that were there in a sort of stained glass looking, but also to me it's pixelation, and this idea that we censor bodies that we don't want to see, and that's often the case with older women, like, oh, we don't want to see that anymore. This one is called
Disgraced Shop.
That's right, Disgraced Shop Horn. So it also has beading in it in little discrete squares that mimic the pattern of those squares, and I've added the lead weights. One of the advantages of being an older person is that we tend to care a lot less what other people think. So I decided I needed to make some medals to award women who have reached a certain age, who no longer care, or care a little less anyway, about what other people think. So these are pieces of brass that are naturally patinaed. I've added other metals, some chain. They all have a little bit of gray hair, it's human hair. And then some of them are embossed with letters. So like this one, for instance, it's MFLTG. No fucks left to give. So when you reach that point, you are awarded this medal. And then they're made to resemble a medal you might be awarded by military service. Because doggone it, we've made it this far, right? So there's also GHLF, gave her last fuck. And then there's others that don't have the letters in there, they're just simply medals of honor.
Do you want us to shift this way so you can be over here?
You can, yeah, everybody rotate. I experimented with other materials beyond the bra straps and the quilts. I purchased some latex fabric. There's a little bit of it ended up in this sort of pixelated piece, punching bag, but ultimately I didn't do much with it. I probably will down the road. But I did want to play with cast silicone. So these are called Forever Young, taut, plump, and firm. And these are vanity trays. So they're a tray that has a mirrored bottom, and you put your makeup or perfumes or whatever, jewelry or something. But I removed the mirror, cast silicone in various skin tones, and then these are disposable injection needles that are placed into the silicone to give you the text. And I love the shadow. I love how it gave that lacy shadow happening on the panel there. And then on the other wall over here is another piece of cast silicone, and that one is called Flawless. And it is this idea that perfect skin, a certain color, clarity, youthfulness about it is as desirable as a precious gem. So it's a strong set neck piece that you can also wear to disguise what's happening to your chest. The last piece that I was going to talk about, and now I'll open it up for questions, is this piece in the back. It's called Faded Glory. It is an oval panel that's covered in lead and has a single gray hair braid hanging from it. And it's, of course, women's hair has been referred to as their crowning glory. Well, that's a faded glory. But also, the sheen of that lead and the shape of it, that oval, made me think about a mirror, which then sort of led me back to the hag and the crone and the witch and fairy tales. And the Snow White and the evil queen looking in that mirror, and how we are taught from little tiny kids, and it's been forever. How old are these fairy tales? From tiny kids, we've been taught that youthful beauty is worth killing for. That's a pretty powerful thing to be taught. And then also, the other thing I'll wrap up about in terms of the fairy tales is thinking about all the female villains in fairy tales, or most of them anyway. The hags, the crones, the witches, they're sprouting chin hairs, they've got moles, they're stooped, they're just post-menopausal women, for God's sake. So, that's what I have for you. You're welcome to ask any questions.
Have your fingers healed.
Have my fingers healed.
From the beating.
Yes, because it's been months. Although there's a little scar still on this one. So.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The weaving part reminds me of cedar baskets.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And particularly with that kind of color happening.
Yeah, I thought you might be. Yeah.
Yes.
Aren't you a little old to be doing work like that?
I am. For sure. Yes.
Do you remember when you first started working on the bra strap pieces? It's been quite a while now, right? That you first
It's been 2 years.
with these?
Well, actually, I think I started experimenting about 3 years ago. That piece I started, I know, 3 years ago. I know exactly when I started it.
Thanks.
Sure.
How heavy is that?
That piece, we've been debating about that because I have not been able to figure out a way to weigh it. But my friend Paul and my friend Carol, who's somewhere, we to get it from my studio, which is just a block up the street, we had this big heavy tarp and we had it on the tarp, and the three of us were trying to carry it, but we basically dragged it down the street to the gallery. So Paul thinks it's about 100 pounds. I don't know. 125. 125, Carol says 125. Can I hear 150? Yeah. Actually, 150 would be great because that's my weight. So then we have the whole.
Okay, so I turned 45 yesterday. But thinking about like approaching perimenopause, I just want to say I feel, and I talk to my friends about how your generation, just a wee bit older than we are living. Well, I just past for us. You're talking about perimenopause, you're talking about menopause, and I feel like I see that in this work. I wonder if there were women before you that you were seeing in their work.
That's a good question. I haven't thought about that before. I'm sure there were, and I just wasn't really aware of it. But no one is coming to the top of mind. But probably, yeah.
Emma Thompson has a famous rant she does on a lot of media services about how everybody needs to love their sagging body.
That's right.
That's art, right?
Yes. I do want to make one point clear. I am not, I am all for bodily autonomy. So if you choose plastic surgery, injectables, creams, lotions, whatever, that is coloring your hair, that's your choice. I love that, go for it. It's really about critiquing the societal pressures that tell us we must do this to be relevant, to be taken seriously, to continue on as, Yes?
What women did you scalp for your gray hair?
I purchased the hair. Obviously, I didn't have enough to do. Yes.
Hey, Holly, so I'm curious, when these ideas come into your head, what is the process that you go through when you sketch things out, you write things out? I mean, oftentimes it's probably the middle of the night, right?
I don't do a lot of sketching, I do some, but it's more of playing with materials and seeing what they can do or how they, so there's a little bit of sketching, but mostly it's a lot of writing down words and phrases, and those will generate ideas of oh, old bag, oh, punching bag, okay, yeah, sure. So, so not a lot of sketching, some.
Some more organic or
Suppose.
evolution or
I
just
suppose, yeah.
But that you learn a lot viscerally through your fingers, and then you can move from there. It's not just a thinking process.
Right. Well, and as I said, there's so much of it is so labor intensive. I'm spending so much time, in the midst of this little thing that I've got a lot of time to think, and I have trouble turning off my brain anyway. So I'm constantly, what's the next thing? Where am I going from here? Yeah.
I love your work. I always have. There's so much craft here and so much work, physical work, time. I'm wondering how you scheduled for this show.
Well, this is literally 2 years of work, almost nonstop. There were my sisters and I were caring for my dad, so there was time taken away for that. But for the most part, this has been every day in the studio. I'm usually there by 7:30 in the morning. They're till 2 or so in the afternoon, go home, do something on the computer, write notes, whatever. So it's been pretty constant. And as I said, I don't turn my brain off, so it's in the middle of the night.
Do you sleep at all?
I try. Welcome to menopause.
So a lot of your work has, word association, which, over the years I've seen. I just want to mention nice melons.
If you haven't seen it, the piece over here called Depreciated Assets is a net bag made from bra straps with 2 artificial melons.
Holly, I have to ask, where did you get all the bra straps?
So I started, this was pandemic, so I started ordering them from Amazon. And then once I decided that, oh yes, this is something I want to pursue, I ordered them in bulk from China. Of course, that's probably cut off now, but yeah.
Turned out to be a serious question.
So, you put yourself out here a lot, constantly. I'm curious to how you decide where you're drawing the line, what you're willing to give up, what
open book, and I'm ready to share pretty much everything. You know, I started making this sort of, well, I've been making social political work basically for forever, but in a much more overt way when my daughter started having some very significant mental health challenges. And so that was sort of my road into, like, it's really important for all of us to talk about these things openly. We need connection. We don't want to feel alone in this, and if you don't talk about it, if you don't talk about perimenopause or menopause or all the things that happen to our bodies, or mental health, gun violence, all of the things that I sort of been channeling into my work, if we don't talk about it, we can't make changes, and we can't, it's no good to feel alone. We need to be together, which is why we're going to go to Seattle Center after this.
Holly, I was surprised in the very nice way that you got in the
Wasn't that lovely? Thank you, Gail Clemens.
That you said you didn't see yourself as an activist, and
I really
I
don't.
wanted you to talk a little
Okay.
bit about those definitions.
Right.
And how you navigate it.
So I think there's a very big difference between being an artist who makes social political work and someone who is an activist. Because I know activists who have basically put their lives on the line, their livelihoods on the line, and they're out getting arrested. I have a woman that I knew, unfortunately, took her own life a few months ago. Sorry. She ended up with long COVID, and anyway, longer story. But anyway, she was at Homestead, the migrant detention center in Florida years ago, and she is one of the people who really instrumental in getting it closed, because she was there daily. She literally was putting herself on the line. I don't do that. I'll go to a protest, right? But I'm not out there putting my whole life into that work. So that's where I get the
Well, you
inspiration.
could make really beautiful pictures. So in other ways, you are putting yourself on the line. I mean, because that's what you do
Every day.
every day.
To me, there's a really strong distinction, but it's different having work in a gallery or in your studio than, literally being out in the street and, risking everything, so.
Well, I think you're one of the most incredible, inspiring, innovative, awesome people I know.
Here's the money.
Any other questions? Keep the conversation going as you walk over to Seattle Center. Holly, this is an amazing show. We're so grateful for it. And thank you to everybody for coming to today. I know you have a lot on your plates, and we're just so honored to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you all once again for coming.